Episode H for Hainanese chicken meal. This is what we will be doing today, and there are so many components of just one meal from one chicken and one pot. Let's start. We will be having a Hainanese poached chicken. We will also, from the soup, we will have a chicken broth, and the broth will cook the tasty rice, and then we will be doing three kinds of sauces. Look here. This is for our soup, this is for our rice. Here we will be doing the very famous chili garlic condiment, and then here we have the sweet soy sauce, and then we will have the sweet vinegar chili dip, and this is where we will have our chicken. Now, what is this chicken all about? This chicken is a special kind of chicken, but we don't have that available here. It's a breed of chicken from Hainan they call wenchang. Why? Because it is fat, lots of fat, and you use the fat to cook the rice and to flavor the broth. Okay? It is meaty and it is free range. When it says free range, then that means the meat is more flavorful than the usual kind of chicken. It is also not the most popular dish in Hainan, but it is the most popular dish in Singapore. So what's the difference there? So Singapore created the Hainanese chicken meal using the Hainan chicken, which is wenchang. That's the connection, right? Now, it can be served just a little warm or room temperature, but it's usually served cold. Not freezing cold, but chilled cold like a salad. Okay? And sometimes don't be scared when you see that parts of the chicken bone have still a little blood left, because that is the real way of poaching the chicken, the way the Singaporeans do it. But we will try our best to not do it so that, some of you might feel queasy about it. The difference between white chicken that is just boiled and Hainanese chicken meal is because after we poach the chicken, we throw it in a tub of ice to stop the cooking, and then we brush it with sesame oil, and then we chop it. So, let's start. Oh, by the way, it's a good time for us to celebrate because last week we celebrated the Mooncake Day, which is the end of the month of the ghost. So, I don't have mooncake, but I have my fortune cookies. Let's read what it will say. Wow! It says, the Commissary kitchen will become one of the most popular cooking videos in the whole world. And this is because Lawin Media Network is producing it. Wow! Can you believe that? Okay, let's start cooking. We're doing the Hainanese chicken for episode H. And as I said, it's a complete meal by itself because you create the poached chicken, and then from the broth you cook your rice. From the rice, you will already have your broth and your rice, and then we will do three kinds of sauces. And that's a complete meal by itself. Now, the star of the recipe is, of course, our chicken. We do not have the wenchang kind of chicken because, it's not available. And that chicken, the skin is very thick because it's very fat. And it will not get punctured, unlike, our supermarket kitchens. But we'll have to make do with that because that's also what you will be using. So let's try our best to keep the skin from not getting punctured. Now, there's a reason why most of the real way of doing Hainanese chicken means using chicken with the head on, and it's a long neck. But this one, of course, we will have to deal with the ones that you will easily get from the supermarket, and it's already has a neck like this. Now, the first thing I want to do is to gather the fat. You should have rubbed the chicken with salt, right? With salt to take out some of to keep it clean. I did that already. And then I'm trying to collect as much chicken fat as I can. So most of the fat will be here in the neck. Why? Because I'm going to use that for cooking my rice. You know, during the times of our grandmothers, they would really use chicken fat for flavor. And that's also because the chickens were free range. Uh-oh. So I already have butas there, but that's okay because that's the part where we really have to pluck the chicken out from the broth later. So that's as much fat I can get. And here usually there's fat here. Okay. But let's leave it at that. I was able to gather some fat. Okay. Now, some of the chickens that you buy will have the heart and the livers. Do not boil the liver together with the chicken when you're poaching. Why? Because liver tends to make the broth cloudy white, milky white. So always do it separately. We will now chop this up later as after we boiled it separately and then add it to our rice. Just so that it will have some kind of meat in the rice. Now to season our chicken, poached chicken, we will have the tips of our scallions. I have the skin of ginger. I have the tips of the onion leaves. Okay, I'm also going to put a chicken cube and possibly for umami, the mushroom powder and salt, a little salt, and of course some ginger to perfume the broth. Let's move here. I have to show you before we start how to prepare the broth. When you're going to put in your chicken, be sure that the broth is here. Let me show you. Be sure that the broth is boiling, rapid boiling. Okay? You would be able to achieve this in a gas oven, but when it's electric, this is good. Rapid boiling. Alright? So I'm going to dump these things. These two. Alright. That for the good aroma. And then our chicken cube. And mushroom powder. Not all of it. Okay, and give that a stir. Some salt. Oh, by the way, after you've rinsed your chicken, be sure to after you rub the chicken of salt, be sure to rinse it, okay? Because you might get a very salty chicken. Okay. So we're again adding our rock salt. Himalayan salt to that. And we will wait for this again to go back to boiling. Once it has boiled, okay, and you know the chicken will cook at 165, what we will do is we will keep it on boiling for about 25 minutes. And while we're doing that, we will prepare our three side things. Now, after 25 minutes, we will put off the heat, but leave it there and let it cook in its own residual heat until it gets fully poached. So that is poaching. After that, we will show you the other technique that makes it Hainanese chicken. All right. Actually, I have already prepared. We're waiting for this to go back to boiling. I have already prepared a sampling of what our poached chicken would look like using using the leg quarter. I wanted to, because if you're only 2 or 4 people, you don't really need the whole chicken. This is a 4 pound chicken. Maybe if it's smaller, that's fine, but it won't be as fat. But if you use your um, leg quarters, that's good enough. And the leg quarters is all dark meat and it's very flavorful. And keep the skin, right? And keep it in the bone. Right? It might be hard to chop this or to slice this later, but what we can do is we can debone it from underneath and then slice it nicely as best as we can. Also, I'm going to I added some turmeric here, and I'm going to do the same just to put a little color in the broth, right? Because the real wenchang chicken is actually yellowish in skin, meaning it is so fat that the fat makes the skin yellow. So let's make this also kind of yellow. Do you know that turmeric? Do you well, us Pinoys, we have this suman sa ibus using the coconut fronds. Actually, if that is actually just white, but those who make that suman, they throw in several fingers of turmeric, the turmeric root, to make the leaves yellowish. That's the secret I learned. I learned that in one of the ladies who was making suman sa ibus. Okay. So again, we close this and we will wait a bit for the water to boil. You do not put your chicken into the water unless it is already rolling boil. Give us a few minutes, we'll be back. So, our water is boiling furiously, turmeric water with all our other trimmings out there, and I have some separate water here where I will throw in the liver. Okay, unahin natin yung chicken. Good luck to you, chicken. We will be poaching you for 25 minutes. Just to, yeah. So make sure that the chicken is really submerged, alright? And watch it because sometimes when it starts to boil over, baka umapaw, the water might overflow. So just be sure you watch it. But keep it on high, boiling for we will time it now for 25 minutes. Okay, now here, I want to just cook the liver and the giblets, the heart, separately. You can see that if you're cooking liver, it turns whitish. We don't like that. Although liver is very, very delicious, right? So it's not going to take long to cook this, but this one we will do this for 25 minutes. Now, you can see that I have several gadgets here. I have a hook. I have my two-pronged fork or lifter, and I also got this from my pegboard. I'm going to try to find the best way to get my chicken out without puncturing the skin. Although it's not going to be easy, but there really is a triangle with some hooks there that you can buy for professional use. But we're trying to do it for a home kitchen. Okay. Now, let me not get distracted with this. We will now be doing 3 kinds of sauces. But we will also be doing our rice, although we will wait for the broth to be used in cooking our jasmine rice. And of course, our chicken fat. And we will add these to our rice later so that it will have some kind of texture. Now let's start with our condiments. Our first condiment, which is actually the most popular of the 3 condiments used in Hainanese chicken is the ginger garlic compote. Compote meaning we will be cooking this in oil. Okay. So aside from the ginger garlic, I have my scallion leaves. So these three parts, and we will be using corn oil. Don't use olive oil, corn oil, and sesame oil for this. Okay, let me put that aside first. And I'm going to combine some of this ginger. Usually it would be more ginger than garlic. Okay. Okay. Let's try this one first. This is always hard for me for my age. Okay. I have my ground garlic. Little bit more. See, when using a garlic press like this, you have to do it on the spot because garlic tends to become yellowish. Alright, that's the garlic. Now, I'm just going to slice our ginger, or you can manage it using this. If you have young garlic, it would be good to use this finer one. But our garlic is kind of old like me, so it has a lot of fiber in it. You can do this ahead, alright? You can do this the night before so that you're not stressed. As long as you cover it so that the garlic and the garlic won't turn green and that the ginger will stay fresh. Okay, try to get as much as you can out of the ginger. Time for us to take out our liver. There. And if we combine now our ginger and garlic with our green onion or scallions, or you can use chives, or you can use one soy, anything green that will counter the bitterness of our ginger and garlic. See, I have this mix now. Okay. What we'll be doing now is the ginger garlic compote, and here's a technique that you can learn that is very unique to making Hainanese chicken meal. But first, I want to season it with a little salt, not much, and a little powder. Mushroom powder. I love mushroom powder because there's so much umami in it. And while it's heating, I'm going to put some corn oil and heat it till it's smoking hot. While you're waiting for things to finish, do not open your chicken because that's going to lessen the heat again that will cook it. We have 17 minutes for it to go before we close it, and it will cook by itself in its own heat of the broth. Right? Just don't open it. And make sure that when you can use a real sturdy pot that will be sealed, that has a seal, right? So here we are done with our liver. We will just chop this later for our rice. So you can see against there, it's smoking already. So this is what we'll be doing. Once you have it smoking hot, you just pour it. You don't put that here, you put the oil into that mixture. Okay? Because we don't want to overcook. We want it to stay as flavorful as it is in its fresh state. Okay? We don't want to make it bitter. We don't want to make it bitter. Now, hindi pa tayo tapos. We will still add sesame oil. And folks, when you're cooking with sesame oil, anything like steaming fish or adding it to a dish at the last minute, make sure, look at that. Make sure that it's smoking like this, right? Why? Because it's a very dense oil, so you have to open the oil until you have the aroma and then release. Okay, so we're done with one compote, and then we can move on to another siding. So that's one siding done. Ayan na tayo. So usually, sometimes if you taste it and you think it will need a little more salt, then you add it na lang at the end. Alright? And maybe white pepper if you'd like. Now we're going to do the next one. This requires again a lot of watching because it can burn quickly. Best for you to use a non-stick pan. For this one, for the second sauce, we're going to use 1 part sugar, caramelize that a bit, just a bit, and then we will add 1 part of soy sauce. That's it. But you can buy, in the supermarket, you can buy ketchup manis. It's called KECAP, and then MANIS. It's a syrup of sweet soy sauce syrup or a glaze that you can already use. But I want to teach you from scratch. So this is how it's done. Wow, look at our poached chicken. It's very busy. It's a 4-pound chicken. For every pound of chicken, you can estimate for poaching about 15 minutes. Okay? To be fully cooked. But we don't want that because we're only after poaching it. So maybe give it, I gave it 25 to 30 minutes. That's about 7 to 8 minutes per pound here. And then another 7 to 8 minutes without the boiling. Okay, that's poaching. My caramel, I'm actually caramelizing the sugar, white sugar. And it's always good to use non-stick because then it's safer. Okay, and when you start cleaning it, it will not, the syrup, the caramel will not stick to the sides of the pan. It will be easier to release. By the way, this is the same technique that I use when I want to make a sauce for lumpia na sariwa. I just caramelize the sugar, okay, and then I add my soy sauce. Time to add the soy sauce. Until it dissolves the sugar. Once in a while, if you feel that it is too strong and it's not yet dissolved, then you just raise it up a bit because the sugar might start to caramelize too fast. I mean, turn black, turn brown. There, so we're just dissolving the sugar with the soy sauce. So try this on your next sariwang lumpia sauce. And this is also a glaze that you can make ahead and keep it in a glass jar. And you can use it to glaze salmon or pork. That is now our second sauce. Thirdly, we will just do a simple vinegar, water mix. It's just 1 part of sugar. I'm not going to caramelize it. I'm dissolving it in 1 part of water. And then dissolve it in 3 parts of white vinegar. You can actually skip this by just dissolving it by hand. Okay, there, it's dissolved, so that's it. Put it back here. So that would be a sweetish dissolved vinegar, and we're going to spice it up with chili. Of course, you can skip this if you don't like any spice in it, but why not, you know? That's the way. Sabi nila, the way to eat Hainanese chicken is you have the rice that was cooked in the broth, and then you have the 3 kinds of sauces in one mouthful together with the chicken. So you're having an umami of the soy sauce, and then the tanginess of your ginger garlic, and then the spice, the heat of your chili, vinegar chili. Wow. All three important tastes in one bite. So I'm removing the vein, which holds the heat. It's not really it's of course it's the seeds, because the seeds are attached to the vein. So, and we don't like the seeds because it's messy to look at. Although some would add it just to show the customers that, hey, there's chili in there. Okay, open it up again. Sometimes it's also good that you have something to hold on to, you know, because later your fingers will already be a chili finger. By the way, I'd like to shout out to my friends, Ami Besa, thank you for being the ninang, as I said, of Filipino cuisine, although we're not doing anything Filipino. And when we did the Dinuguan series, I was inspired by Romy Durotan in making Dinuguan Longganisa. I failed to thank you ahead, but here in the show, but thank you very much. And saludo kami sa inyo. Okay. So we will just slice this up. I suggest you use gloves if you're careful about spice. And there you go. There you are. That's a third. Okay. What do you do after you have sliced chili? Wash your hand. Unless you want painful eyes. Okay? The poaching chicken, I have already closed the heat and it's just cooking in its own heat, right? But as I said, I previously poached also another chicken. Actually, I just boiled it. So to show you the difference between boiled white chicken and poached chicken. Boiled white chicken is just boiled and then you just pick it up and chop it, right? But is there a difference in taste? I don't think so. There's not much difference, except that this one really has more juiciness, maybe by a certain percent of juiciness. But this is what your white chicken would look like. It looks nicer in color because of the turmeric, and it will have again also good broth that you can use now to cook your rice. Now, I found a good device on YouTube, and this is what you call the oil separator. It has an opening here. If you press this, it will release the broth, and the oil will be on top. It's very useful when you want to fried rice or steamed rice using just the broth without too much of the oil. Okay, so we will try this, and then I just wanted to show you that the texture will also be the same. Maybe what we can do is we can slice this to show you the difference. Most times, the bone of a white chicken may also have a little blood left But that's because um, we we don't want to overcook our chicken, right? So also, I did not immerse this in ice, which is what we will be doing for our uh, Hainanese chicken. Okay, I'm just preparing that, getting ready. Plus, getting ready with my brush and my sesame oil. You can do the same with your white chicken, but I'm not going to put it on ice. That's reserved for my poached chicken, like that. And then you attempt to slice it. What I can do is, from the back, I know that the bone is there. And you know, God created chicken to have partitions so that you will know where to slice it. See? Okay. So, of course, if you want to use gloves, go ahead. I don't. So, the easiest part to carve nicely would be the thigh. So, after you cool the chicken, you can easily slice it nicely using a cleaver. Actually, if you don't have the whole chicken, you can really just use chicken leg quarters. Plate it nicely. Keep the skins on top. Put the other ones that I did not slice too well somewhere there, and then cover it with the rest of that. Okay. And then you can do the same. You can serve the same way, but maybe here on the side. And then cover the chicken with a little more of the broth. We don't have the rice yet, but I just wanted to show you this is a good investment for your kitchen. So that's one sample, and we are just going to wait for this. Meanwhile, what we can do is, since it's the same kind of broth, let us start doing our rice. Since cooking on an electric stove is not as strong as we want it to be, give a little room to open it, although you're not really supposed to. Give a little room to open it and check, because here in the States, we want the chicken to be really fully cooked. Okay, it's 167, so that means that in 6 more minutes, our poached chicken is very, very ready. Actually, the real way that the Singaporean chicken would be, using the Wenchang chicken or the Hainan chicken, is really just a little under 165, maybe 160. Yeah, to keep the chicken breast from not drying up, right? So what we will be doing is, just to give you an idea, is to immerse the chicken here and then let it cool down, okay, to stop the cooking, and then chop it up. But once it has cooled a bit, we will again brush it with our sesame oil. We're back and ready to put our poached chicken into the icy swimming pool so that it will stop cooking. Alright, here we go. Ooh, now, It's a challenge for me in how I'm going to retrieve this chicken without tearing the skin. I'll try my best, okay? Oh, it's a heavy chicken. Okay. Well, we will use. And then into the ice bath. Yeah, so it's now in its ice bath and I'm just trying to help cool it. And the important thing is while it's being cooled down, you brush it already with sesame oil in the parts that are there. Okay? So we'll do some more of that later. In fact, I think I should transfer this chicken already here since we have already cooled it down a bit. I'm just going to continue brushing it in the kilikili, you know, the armpits of the chicken. There. To add more flavor to it. Really more flavor. Now, we showed you how we got the broth from the boiled chicken. Let's now do it for our real poached chicken. And I tasted it and honestly, this is more flavorful. Also because we added mushroom powder and then the chicken stayed longer. So what we're doing is we're gathering some of the broth to cook our rice in, and at the same time some of the broth will also become our soup. Okay, I have a cup of long grain jasmine rice and some of the chopped liver that we cooked before. So with 1 cup, we will be needing about 1.5 cups of our broth. And we will cook it the risotto way. Now, to cook our delicious rice. What can you do with all the extra broth? Keep it in a plastic food to go box, jar or container, and then you freeze it. And every time you want to make very tasty rice, you cook the rice with that. Or you can even use it for soup, for making macaroni, or for boiling, even for boiling fish. It will have a more flavorful effect. Alright? So we're now going to cook our rice using only the chicken fat and our liver and the rice. Plus, we will be cooking it slowly with our broth. You see, the oil is already gathering on top because oil is less dense and it is floating, so it will now be easy to separate it. So for those who are concerned about fat in the broth, then this is the best solution for you. Now we're ready to do our rice. Okay, if you don't feel like you want to use chicken fat, then don't. But don't use also olive oil because that will alter the taste. It won't taste Chinese. So maybe corn oil or other kinds of oil that do not have that much flavor. Okay. Peanut oil is good. We're just going to render the oil from our chicken fat. And before I start with the rice, let me just cook this a little more and then we will return it. People don't like to see blood, anything red in liver. Okay, I will just return this. All I did was to part cook my liver again. It's already cooked, but I took out the pink or the actually liver is good when it's pink, like in pate. chicken oil, chicken fat, and now our rice. 1 cup rice. What you do is you will toast the rice until the grains start to become pearly white. The chicken fat is still cooking and melting. I think I'll use the smaller one. You know, jasmine rice is very delicate. And guess what? I just learned something new from my husband. I said, how come some restaurants, their jasmine rice is so aromatic? It smells so good, like pandan or basta it's so nice. And then when I bought some, they didn't have any smell. And he said, we have to look for the Milagrosa brand, the Milagrosa kind. So when they say Milagrosa, then that means that you will have the fragrant rice that you have in the restaurant. So there are 2 kinds, okay? If you just buy the long grain, then there's no fragrance. Even if it says fragrant rice, don't. Just say, it has to say Milagrosa. So we will just wait for this to kind of become translucent, meaning to say that the grains are getting cooked, toasted. So when they're toasted, they'll become a little brittle or more open so that we can already add in our broth little by little. When you're making a Hainanese chicken meal, don't use too much sesame oil in everything. We have sesame oil in our compote. We have sesame oil on our chicken. You don't need to put sesame oil on your rice. That's why if you want them, and if they request sesame oil, just put it on the side and they can have it. Of course, be sure to heat your sesame oil. Okay, we can start with this now. And I'm going to, this is the risotto way. You cook the rice. Risotto or the paella way. Okay, you cook it until the rice goes on top or absorbs the broth. At this point, I want to add a little seasoning with my salt, with my mushroom powder, and on the second time that you will add your broth, you can already add in your liver and the giblets. Don't add it too early anyway, it's already cooked because it might turn bitter. You know, liver is so delicious, but it depends on how long you cook it. You should not cook it still, because sometimes the liver is attached to the gallbladder. So the gallbladder has bile, and sometimes in the process, when the bile sticks on to part of the liver and you get that, then it becomes bitter because bile is bitter. So there. So the rice has absorbed that again. So again we add the second helping of our broth. And once it comes to a boil or a simmer, then we will add our liver. You know what this reminds me of? It's like making arroz caldo. Except that the rice we will be using is the sweet rice, or what they call the malagkit rice. You can use arborio, you can use sushi rice for that, and you actually are doing an arroz caldo or a pospas this way. Okay, I can now add my livers. By the way, guys, this is just an extra step. If you don't want to see liver in your rice, then don't. So risotto means that the rice, you cook the rice as slowly as the rice starts to absorb the broth. But you know, risotto, has a special kind of rice. It would be like the arborio rice because that takes a little longer and becomes sticky and sticky as it cooks. This jasmine rice will just cook quickly. You overcook it, then it's going to turn into mashed potato rice. You know what? At this point, I want to taste it already. Mmm. Tasty. I must have put in about half a cup of the broth and another half cup. So we will go with our last half cup. And hopefully our rice will already be cooked. But you know, when you're on your third broth, just do it slowly so that you don't overcook the rice. Rice will be nice if it's al dente. Well, I'm going to try to start slicing my chicken. I feel safer with scissors. So let's start with this half. You will get the cut out the thigh and the legs, like what we did in our boiled chicken. Let's put that aside first, and then chicken wings. You shouldn't really take out the wings just like that, or leave it, take out one side there. By the way, did you notice that the chicken is yellowish? That's because of the turmeric that we added, right? Okay. So this is the chicken tenders. We can chop that, put that here. Wings. This is what I'm saying. When you poach chicken, there's a tendency for the bone to have some blood in it. To the Chinese, this is fine because it will ensure that the chicken is juicy, tender, and not overcooked. But to be sure, for those of you who are careful about serving, especially the chefs who might you're serving it to a non-Chinese customers, avoid the bloody bones. So this is our episode H with Hainanese chicken meal, meaning we have the broth from which the chicken was poached. We have the rice, wherein the rice was cooked with the broth, by the broth, and we have some chicken livers that came with the chicken. And then we have our sweet soy glaze, and the favorite of them all, the ginger garlic compote with oil and sesame oil. And this is the vinegar sugar water that will add heat to the meal. We just showed you the difference between a white chicken or just a boiled chicken. See? And there's really not much difference there, but this tends to be more flavorful because when you poach it and it starts getting cooked and then you cook it again in its own residual heat, it gives the liquid enough time to slowly seep in back into the muscles and the meat, making it really more juicy. So how do you eat this? First, you can enjoy, of course, before anything, enjoy the soup. And see, I like it because there's no more oil in it because of the oil separator that I bought. It's really good. And then, get the rice. Of course, I like the one with, this is, I like the one with the little skin. And then, I'm going to add my soy glaze. That's the sweet. And then I'm going to get my ginger garlic and put some heat in my one serving, and voila, 3 flavors in one bite. You know what? I can distinguish the taste of each and every one. The heat, the sweetness, the vinegar is not sour because it was diluted with water, and then the umami sweetness of the soy sauce, and this one is really so good. Plus, of course, our chicken, which has become colorful because of the turmeric, so don't forget to add that in your next trial. And here I go again. I'm trying it also just the rice. I cannot stop. Just a few more reminders. When you're eating, do not leave your chopsticks like that, okay? Because this means it's not good luck. It's actually no. So this is where we end our episode H for Hainanese chicken, and with my oily lips and my appetite, I want to eat more of the chicken. We will not end unless we have a life value, and our life value will be given to us by our invisible friend, Mr. Christian. And I think this is a very important message for all of us Americans. He belongs to the group of Unipro, which is actually a civic young adults organization. They're very, very active in community work. And I think he has a very important message, not just for the young adults, but for all of us Americans. Christian?
Hello! Hi, Tita!
Yeah.
Nice. My name is Christian. I am from Unipro, Texas. It means Filipino-American Unity for Progress. And basically, our advocacy right now is voter engagement. So, it doesn't matter who you vote as long as you practice your right to vote.
Yes.
Which, our ancestors before us fought for our forefathers, even like the first black and brown folks here, they fought for this right to vote. So as long as you're using it, it's like an honor to them and a tribute to the struggles they fought for.
Give us the dates that are important to remember.
You know what? Let me get a reminder.
Okay, but while he's doing that, I would just like to share also that my grandmother, Aling Asya, when she was still a young adult in her time, I think 1900 something, there was the suffrage for women in the Philippines, and they were also granted the right to vote. Because before, the women were not allowed to vote, remember? So it's a very valuable right of freedom.
Imagine, like, people are feeding you, you don't trust them to vote to make the right decisions for you. That's crazy. But yeah, so I have this little magnet over here. If you want one, just contact me. It says grow the circle, because we're growing the circle of our community. So October 7 is last day to register to vote. So starting now, when you watch this, up to October 7, you can register to vote. You can go to Texas Votes to know where you could register. You could register by mail, or you could go to a different office to register.
Or the website. That's 3 weeks away.
Yeah, I'll put it on the screen as well.
Yeah.
I edit this video, so I'll put relevant information on the screen. October 21st, last day to vote early. So if you don't wanna fall in line at election day, probably vote early, or if you have a day off before election day, because election day, it's not a holiday. A lot of people still go to work. Unlike in the Philippines, it's a holiday. You don't have to go to work. Here, you have to go to work. So it's kind of, why do they even value the voters if they don't let them get off work to vote, right?
Well, but at least you know that you have the right to vote, and that's important.
And then last day of early voting is November 1st, and then election day is November 5th.
That's a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, fellow Americans, it is not just a right, but it is a duty to vote. And that is an important life value that we have to observe, not just for our future, but for the future of our loved ones and the next generation to come. Which brings me to another fortune cookie.
Is that
Yeah.
gonna be who wins the election?
No. It's not who will win the election. Let me read it. It says, what you just cooked was the most delicious chicken, Hainanese chicken in the world?
Wow. So the person who wrote that and cooked the fortune cookie already knew. A prophecy.
Yeah.
A prophecy.
Well, yeah, we want to end up with that. We promise you this is a very delicious dish you can do. It's very detailed, so there are a lot of techniques that you can do ahead and procedures that you can do ahead. Just go about with the chicken, poaching it on the day itself. But all these can be done ahead. All right. God bless you. God is good, and we will be back with episode I.
All right. Thank you.